I want to start by, it's hard not to start just with talking about the way this film portrays Mumbai. And I'm curious, where that came from, if it was at all related to depictions of the city you had previously seen on screen, or it really came through the characters' perspectives, and how you came to kind of meld those ideas with the visual identity of the film that you created with your cinematographer, Ranbir Das.
Firstly, thank you all for coming and for staying. And my crew is also here, some people, including Ranbir Das,
oh, great.
the cinematographer.
Please, give it up, yeah.
Thank you. And my producers, Thomas and Julia, from Petit Chaos, which I still can't pronounce in the French way, but and our wonderful distributors from Sideshow and Janus, who are going to be releasing the film in the US, which is like a huge, huge thing for me. So I'm really happy about that. Coming to your question. It was really, I wanted to shoot the city from the perspective of the two characters, because it's a city which I have very mixed feelings towards. I understand that there is a lot of good things about it, and I think for the character, for example, of Anu, for her, it's a place of liberation, and she can be anonymous in the city and hide her relationship and have this sense of delight for everyday things about Mumbai, like going to Muhammad Ali Road to eat kebabs and things like that. So Mumbai has that quality of allowing some kind of anonymity and freedom that a lot of women in India, because, in the smaller cities from where they would probably come from, there would be a lot of people who would be very aware of where they are and things like that. And she doesn't have to worry about that in Mumbai. Except for, of course, there is a bit of gossip. She's not very clever at it. And for Prabha, it's just about like every day getting to her work and traveling for 1 hour in the train or more than that. And what she sees more is that interior of the train and the city as it passes by from the doors and the windows. And I wanted to see the city like that as well, always passing by like a fast track shot across Mumbai.
Yeah, I think, there's a very particular and keen emotion associated with this loneliness one can feel in a big city that you capture really well. That's all the more amplified at night. It's a beautiful nocturne, and was that the idea behind that also related to this hiddenness, this clandestine nature of the lives they're leading?
Yeah, absolutely. And also the time that you get off work is usually in the evening. And so you can only really enjoy the city in the evening or nighttime, because through the day you're working. So you only see the insides of the hospital and you don't really get to roam around. So it had to be more in the evening and at night.
Yeah, there's a real attention to labor in this film, not only the characters' jobs, but we see a sort of union meeting drive. And then you're also aware at moments like when they're speaking with the lawyer or whoever's counseling them on housing, you're kind of aware of a woman in the background, doing something.
You're the only one who noticed that, so I'm happy.
I was attuned to that, yeah. Was that, can you talk about kind of incorporating I guess the film around this notion of labor and who performs it, and the idea of, certain work belonging to women, which is, it's interesting also that the estranged husband sends a rice cooker, of all things.
So romantic. Yeah, I mean, I feel the most stark things to notice about Mumbai is the extreme inequality that exists in the city, and I think it's growing more and more as certain parts get more gentrified, and there is this complete shift of who lives in which area in Mumbai that is happening since the past 30 years, I think. And I wanted very much to always have these layers of different class in the film. And even the lawyer who's supposedly trying to help her, but really doesn't understand what it means for her to not have the papers and how he could actually help her. So there is this kind of benevolence, this sort of I am there to help you kind of thing, which comes out of a sense of being charitable, but it's completely misplaced. And he really can't help her. And finally, I hope that it's the union that can give her some sense of belonging and the possibility of getting her house back. And in fact, when I was writing the script, I started doing a lot of research about the history of the area of the cotton mills. For those of you who are not aware, the film is placed in this area in Mumbai, which is Dadar and Lower Parel, which used to be mainly where the cotton mills used to be, which was the biggest industry in Mumbai. And then in the 80s, there was a very big strike that happened with the workers. And instead of meeting the demands, many of the mills shut down and a lot of people lost their jobs. And now that whole area, there are hardly any mills left because it became like a land scam. That property was so highly priced that it just made more sense for them to sell it to really expensive builders. I mean, to builders who would make really expensive flats there. So while I was doing the research, I came across that the unions still exist, especially for fighting for the rights of getting those apartments that the workers were supposed to get in the 90s, which they never did. And now many of them had to move back to Ratnagiri. A lot of them did come from Ratnagiri, like Parvati, in the Konkan region. There is a long history of the relationship between the people of Ratnagiri and Bombay. So many of them had to move back, but fortunately that movement is still on, and now the children of these people are fighting for what they should have got 30 years ago. So I had to include that in the film because when I told it to some of the lawyers in the union, they were like, you can't make her go back. We have to show that what's really going on and that there is a hope and that there is, still us, we're still here. And I went for many of those meetings and there really was a sense that something might come out of it. At least I'd like to believe that. And so I wanted to kind of keep it in the film just as it's not a solution, but it's a kind of that perhaps she could come back.
I'm glad you did. I think it also speaks to your aesthetic and artistic sensibility as someone who doesn't really subscribe to a binary definition of narrative or documentary. Your first film, which appears to be a documentary, includes significant fictional elements, and this film, which appears to be a narrative fiction film, seems to include significant documentary elements. So, can you talk a bit more about that? Like the testimonies we hear at the beginning and during interludes throughout the film.
Yeah, it's. I like very much to mix fiction and non-fiction. I think that juxtaposition perhaps creates a feeling of the fiction being more realistic somehow. That you feel that are you really watching something that is fiction or we are still in the non-fiction part of it. So I wanted to kind of create this city symphony feeling with the voices that you're hearing, a lot of testimonies of different people from Mumbai, and then we are just taking one or two strands or notes from that symphony and getting into that life of Prabha, because you see her in this slow motion shot at the door of the train, and then we cut to the curtain being opened and she looks out and the city is reflected on her face, almost as if we are being invited to the fiction, like Abhi picture, now the film is starting.
Such an extraordinary character entrance, beautiful. I want to make sure we have time for questions from the audience, so I'll give you another minute to think of good questions, but I want to make sure I also ask about the extraordinary performances in this film. We have Kani Kusruti, who plays Prabha, and Divya Prabha playing Anu. Yeah, can you talk about finding and then working with these actors and how you managed to get such evocative performances in the context of a very soft, quiet, subdued film?
They really are great artists, and it was really a privilege to work with them. I was very keen that it's not actors who are coming to do a job in the film, but could also be politically aligned with some of the themes in the film. And they definitely were. They were also very, very vocal, and we argued about a lot of things, which is always good. And I had seen their work. They are both really quite well known in the sort of parallel. We don't really use that word anymore, but more independent films circuit.
Right, and Kani Kasurthi is also in this year's film, Girls Will Be Girls. Great performance in that as well.
Yeah, she's so good. So I was very aware of their work. Divya Prabha is in a film of Mahesh Narayanan called Ariyappu, and that is also a great film and a great performance. And I was so mesmerized by her in this film. I was like, I just want to meet her and see where this goes. So that's how I approached them. And Chaya Kadam I had seen in Fandry. It is a movie 10 years ago, I think. I saw it when I was at film school. It released at that time. It is Nagaraj Manjule's film. It's a really, really good film, and her performance was incredible. And she just really, I mean, she's acted in so many films, but that particular performance I really loved a lot. And with a lot of trepidation, I approached her because it's my first film and her some 100th film. So, but when I told her about the character, she's also from Ratnagiri herself. So she knew very much, and her family had also moved to Bombay, and it was. So she was very aware of that history, also the gestures of this woman and the kind of language. The Hindi would be of a certain way because she's from Ratnagiri and things like that, which she completely added to the film. Like she made some of the dialogues really her own. So it was like a true collaboration. It really was that they are also, have written many of the dialogues and made them their own.
Language is so important in this movie, yeah. Okay, I can't really see any hands, but I think if you raise your hand, somebody may come to you with a microphone. I do see one over here, actually.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Thank you for this film. I wanted to ask you about the choice of centering nursing and nurses, something that in India, at least, is taboo in so many ways, right? And crosses so many lines of pollution or ritual. I mean, I'm saying historically it's been stigmatized, and also with some of the liberties even that the women and the characters in the film are able to have as part of the stigma that is associated with the profession. So I wanted to ask you about your choice in that, and then also the reception in India.
Yeah, I mean, it's I was very keen to make the film with nurses because of multiple reasons. One is that nursing as a profession is one where women from different states can go to a different place to work, and that's considered to be, okay. And it's not true of all professions because usually you'll stay in your own state. And so I wanted to have women who have migrated from their region and come to Mumbai to work. So the nursing profession felt right for me to do that. It's also initially when I started writing the film, it was for my student project. And I was hanging out a lot in hospitals for personal reasons. And so a lot of the stories I got and the friends I made with the nurses there became the kind of seed for this film. Of course, it changed a lot, but it was the starting kind of interest that I had. And they were Malayali nurses. And the Malayali nurse is, I mean, every hospital will have a Malayali nurse. And it's such a, especially in India, you see every hospital, and they're so, they're so good at their work, and So I felt that it was also a profession which is all about touch and about kind of not showing your emotion. She says also in the middle that, don't show your emotion, you're a nurse. But there is this like whole complex life that's there. But I understand what you're saying, because even the portrayal of nurses in cinema have been quite complicated in India. Even a Satyajit Ray film, Pratidwandi, when the two boys want to have a good evening, they go hang out with a nurse, because it's also considered that they are women who live alone and they are women who've left their homes to work, which in itself, at least in the 60s, was considered to be, for the want of another better word, loose. So yeah, it is a complicated occupation, but that makes it more interesting for me as well.
Other questions? Over here.
Hi. Thanks for this outstanding film. When reflecting on the title, I am still wondering what this slide is referring to. Like at the very beginning, when there's a medley of the different quotes, people say that they travel to Mumbai for opportunities, for wealth, for fortune, for personal success. But as the story so slowly unfolds, we can see that this slide also refers to equity and freedom, and especially when it comes to women and certain careers. So after putting it this way, why do people in the film say that all this is like an illusion, like Mumbai is creating an illusion of a light for people to live in, and those who don't accept this illusion will go mad? How do you? I've noticed about the cave scene, where it's entirely dark except for I wonder how everything comes together in your interpretation of this slide. Like does it exist? Why is it elusive, and how are people eventually seeing it? Thank you.
Oh, it's a very complicated question. I try to answer in the way that I understand it. So please excuse me if I'm not fully answering it well. But I think for me, the light had to do with possibility. With for a character, especially like Prabha, she's so caught up in the morality of the society in which she's in that she can't really see that there is another way for her. That's what I meant with light, which is you can't imagine light in the darkness all the time, and that is something that I wanted to talk about, was possibility, or more simplistically, hope as light. And with the lines in the middle of the film is a kind of a counter to the first part, where people are saying that, oh, we came to the city and we wanted to, everything was so nice. And this girl is saying that I had my heart broken, but I forgot everything because I came to Mumbai, and all that seems a little more positive. But in the truth is that Mumbai is also a very difficult city to feel comfortably living in. You need a lot of money, and you need to kind of, it's complicated. So the middle part was because Parvati was leaving, and she had to kind of leave Mumbai in spite of living there for 22 years. I wanted to feel a bit of an anger towards the city and how it so easily throws out people, and also, you can't complain, because that is what, in Mumbai we say it's the spirit of Mumbai. But I feel that this line basically camouflages this feeling that you have to kind of endure it, whether you like it or not. You can't complain because, oh, it's the spirit of Mumbai. So that for me is a double-edged sword, and it can sort of not allow people to be angry about not having housing, not having equal rights to public space and things like that. For me, it's I'm not very much for the illusion, and I think that one needs to question the illusion. The lines are basically saying that you better accept it, otherwise you will be, you will go mad because you will realize that it's not the best situation for you. So personally, I'm not connecting so much the cave and those lines. For me, they are not related, but light and the cave are related. So it's interesting that you make this connection, and I'd be curious to talk about it more with you later.
We have time maybe for one more question before we wrap it up. Way over there.
What a fantastic film. I wanted to make a comment and ask a question. And the comment is, Bombay feels very much, as a one-time migrant to Bombay myself, Bombay feels like a character in the movie. It's sort of all-encompassing. And the question was really about the papers and the more recent issue of Hum Kagaz Nahi Dikhayenge. And I was curious about whether that is a link that you made and whether there was a more specific purpose behind that.
Yeah, it's the purpose. It's what you said. Just so other people know, in 2020, I think I might be getting the 2019, 2020, the government tried to pass a law which was extremely Islamophobic, which basically needed people to prove that they were Indian. Which means that they had to show birth certificates and, like their school passing certificates of them, their parents and their grandparents, which is, besides being strongly an Islamophobic law, it was also an anti-poor law because nobody has papers in India. It's a real issue. You'll have one monsoon and your papers are going to get washed out maybe, and there's no kind of digital copy of it anywhere. So it would mean that it would be really difficult for people to prove that they exist. And so during this movement, the slogan of people who were protesting against it was "Kagaz nahi dikhayenge," which is, we will not show our papers even if we have them, to be no one will show their papers. So I wanted to kind of talk about that in this film also, where a person like Parvati, who's lived in this place for 22 years, she's completely erased from any documented presence. And that is frustrating and unfair. But it's not just Parvati, it's a large population in India who doesn't have papers. So it's true what you said, the connection.
I'll just remind everyone again, the film opens theatrically Friday, November 15th at Film Forum and Film at Lincoln Center. I want to thank my colleagues working AV and security, thank all of you for coming, and a huge thank you to Payal for being here to discuss the film.
Thank you.